Hey everyone, my name is Jake, and today we're going to talk about when Jehovah's Witnesses say this bad thing is happening to you because you left the organization.
To people who've left the truth and the baggage they sometimes end up carrying when they come back into the truth. It makes me feel it's just not worth it.
This is something that I've talked about offhandedly on streams and stuff, but never really in a video, and I think it's really important because even though I've now been mentally awake, as the kids say these days, for 3 years, there is still something when the going gets tough that will creep into my head every once in a while.
How did all this happen? It happened because you left, Jack.
And so let me describe what this argument is. The common aphorism that I would hear as a Jehovah's Witness is, Satan will do anything to get you to leave. He'll promise you the world, but he will chew you up and spit you back out.
I think when you test out the world, Satan will give you immediate satisfaction. But when you serve no purpose to him anymore, that's it.
If you leave Jehovah's Witnesses, yeah, things may seem great at first, but this is Satan who drew you. The big bad man pulled you out, and he's just using you. And as soon as he's done, he's just gonna spit you out, and then your life is gonna suck. I think I made it more confusing the more I described it. Now, we could break this down logically, but it's not really a logical argument. It is not seeking to sway you with facts and logic. It's trying to scare you. Because, of course, the entire doctrine, as is the doctrine of any cult, is to scare you into staying. The outside world is terrifying. You're only safe in here. Now, even though this isn't a logical argument, it is worth pointing out that this is not logical. Because do bad things happen to Jehovah's Witnesses? Yes. One of the things that they're so excited about as a religion is the fact that they feel they have an answer as to why God allows suffering. And so when bad things happen to you as a witness, and there are just as many sob story videos, dramatizations, and interviews on exJW.org with witnesses talking about harrowing experiences they've had, tough times, things that tested their love for Jehovah, their faith in the organization, but because they held on and had faith in Jehovah, they were rewarded. And in fact, the doctrine is that Satan isn't even all that interested in people in the world. You know, he's already got them in his red pocket, because he's red and has a ponytail and a southern accent, canonically.
Who do you think are Satan's primary targets?
We are.
He and the demons are like a pack of hungry lions looking to devour us.
Being a publisher of the good news is a privilege that Satan seeks to attack.
Are you a parent with children? Do you think Satan wants you to become unclean? Yes. He knows that devouring a family head could weaken an entire family in the congregation. Satan would love to devour you, dear pioneers, ministerial servants, and elders. Are you in the circuit work? A missionary? A Bethelite? What a sacred privilege. But remember, it also means that we have a big target on our back. Satan and the demons would love to penetrate.
What he really wants is to get Jehovah's Witnesses out. Satan, he's not interested in shooting a deer. He wants to get an elephant. Jehovah's Witnesses, for your sweet, sweet ivory. The metaphorical affront to Jehovah. I should think through these analogies before I just start saying them. So when bad things happen to you as a Jehovah's Witness, the explanation is either time and unforeseen occurrences, or Satan is targeting you because you're serving Jehovah. That's why things are hard. Because you're serving Jehovah, and Satan wants you to stop.
The reason we wanted to talk with them is that thus far, they have successfully countered Satan's attacks on their family. We'd like to hear how they accomplished this.
When you leave, the narrative flips from bad things are happening to you because you left Jehovah, and Jehovah's not helping you anymore. It is an argument that makes no sense. It is purely one of convenience. If you're a witness and bad things happen, they have a convenient scapegoat. When you leave and bad things happen, they can use it in their favor too. But it is an emotional argument because a lot of times, even though I know in my head that it isn't intellectually true, it feels true. So I thought I'd talk about something that happened that kind of shapes my view on when the going gets tough as an exJW, because me and Christina just had like a really shitty week, just like one crappy thing after another. And so this thought was going through my head. So I'll tell you a little story. I've talked about this on the channel before. At 8, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And so I've had Crohn's for my entire life, and I was able to avoid surgery for a long time. But around the time when I started waking up from the organization, my Crohn's symptoms started to get a lot worse, and I was really, really, really sick. Like, dying sick. A lot of you know I ended up needing multiple blood transfusions on multiple different occasions to live because I was losing so much blood. When I went to the bathroom, just blood. It was awful. I was so sick, and eventually I had to get surgery. And surgery was terrifying. In fact, it is the thing that I feared most in the entire world outside of leaving the witnesses. I was going to need an ostomy bag, an ileostomy bag. And I've worked in healthcare the entire time I've worked, and I've had to treat patients with ostomy bags. And knowing that could happen to me is very terrifying because it is a complete change in like your anatomy, in the way that your body works. It's hard to maintain. It just seemed very scary because it's very different. And then now the scary thing was going to have to happen. Because otherwise, I was just miserable. I was out of options. I knew, okay, well, I have to do this. And the thing is, I saw you have to sign a consent form to get surgery. Checked yes for blood transfusions if needed, which is good because they were. But they also, usually they go through, this stuff probably isn't going to happen, but we just have to, just in case there might be some complications. Every bad thing that they said could happen did happen. The recovery was awful. I spent months in the hospital. It was miserable. And if anybody had told me what the recovery was going to be like, I probably wouldn't have done it. But if they had told me how much better I would feel after the recovery, I would have done it way sooner. I feel like I really started living my life when I was 30, because that's when I got disfellowshipped. Maybe I was 29, but I think 30. But it's also the first time I started feeling healthy. I didn't realize how sick and miserable I was until I was suddenly healthy. For years, from the time I was a kid, I had just gotten used to a low quality of life. I had gotten used to feeling run down, in pain all the time, nauseated all the time. I had just gotten used to all of these horrible things that most people don't have to think about on a daily basis. And it wasn't until all that stuff was gone and some time was removed after the healing process that I realized, wow, I feel amazing. Like, it's night and day. Now, the downside is I do have that ileostomy bag. I literally have to carry around a bag of shit with me all the time. But that thing that I hate and it makes me feel self-conscious, it is the thing that lets me live my life to the fullest. It's the thing that saved my life and that allows me to feel healthy for the first time as an adult. I think that the exJW experience is a lot like that. The process of leaving is excruciating, and the recovery process is excruciating. I still feel like I'm in the recovery process of leaving the call. I've only recently started seeing a therapist. It's helped wonders, but there's a lot of unpacking to do. Depending on how long you're in the organization, the longer you're in, the more stuff you have to work through. You combine that just emotional trauma with the very real, like, logistical things of, I don't get to talk to my parents anymore. Maybe you're not in contact with your own children, grandparents, lifelong friends, and that might affect your employment. One thing that we realized recently was it's a lot harder having to move. We moved departments, and it was a lot more difficult knowing that we didn't just have the congregation there, right? And then there's also just, we've needed support from our parents over the years, and we just don't have it anymore because I'm being shunned. I won't speak to Christina's experience right now, but this is all, I think, part of the recovery process. It's all part of digging out, like, debriding the wounds, and it sucks, and it's really scary, and it feels terrible. But the quality of life afterwards, there's no comparison. Like, when I think back to how sick I was as a kid versus how I feel now, even though I wish I didn't have a shitbag on my stomach all the time, I vastly prefer feeling good and being free and being able to do whatever I want, because this thing that sucked and caused a lot of pain is ultimately the thing that allows me to be free, right? And I think Jehovah's Witnesses are another shitbag for us. We got to carry this thing around, but this thing, this traumatic thing that like we have to endure, is the thing that gives us freedom. And so that's the way I've been trying to think about it when the going gets tough, is this is all crappy, but think of the quality of life changes. And we don't have any more money than we did before. We don't have more friends than we did before. But what you don't realize until you are free of the organization is how sick you were, just in your head. The amount of self-doubt you constantly have because you're told to have it. The amount of shame you feel over tiny, micro transgressions, wrong thoughts, just feeling shame over some stray thought popping in your head. Making that a matter of prayer, worrying about being destroyed by a god at Armageddon that you're certain is going to happen any day now. Those things add up to a truly unhappy life.
In the near future, our faith will be tested as never before. But if we acquire true joy with the help of God's Holy Spirit, we'll be able to stand firm
and weather all the storms that come our way.
However, is it possible for a Christian always to be rejoicing? Yes.
Whatever social circle you had, whatever good times you had as a witness, that is no way to live. It is no way to live knowing that you're one slip up away from destruction on Armageddon, that you're one slip up away from being shunned, that your relationship with this almighty being is constantly being scrutinized, not just by him all the time, he's always watching, but also the congregation. There's the congregation pressure. How is what I'm doing appearing to others? Am I stumbling anybody? Are they noticing my spirituality so the elders get off my back? As shitty as it is to leave, it ultimately ends up improving your quality of life, because that is no way to live. And now, sometimes I notice the shitbag and sometimes I don't. And I think it's becoming more and more like that with Jehovah's Witnesses. So, I don't know if that made any sense, but that's been on my mind. Consider subscribing to the Patreon so I can keep on making videos. It's a lot of fun. And thanks to everybody for watching. Let me know in the comments how you're dealing with coping when the going gets tough.
Penetrate.